Hello one, hello all, it's the most cowboy ghost of them all, Caspa in the flesh, and it's time for a review of Beyonce Cowboy Carter. Beyonce, legendary singer, songwriter, dancer. This woman has truly become a legend from what she put out in the 90s to the 2000s to now. Now, admittedly, before, I was more of a fan of her stuff with Destiny's Child. And her solo stuff in the beginning, I enjoyed. I felt like she had bops, but in terms of albums, I really wasn't finding them favorable until Lemonade, which was a tragic tale of betrayal from infidelity from her husband, one of the biggest rappers of all time, Jay-Z, which I felt was very compelling, very creative, very thematic. And then when Renaissance came out, I really became a member of the Beehive for sure. Because this thing was a dance extravaganza. And giving Renaissance numerous listens, enjoying the hell out of it, I was unaware that we were in the midst of a trilogy of reclaiming black music as Renaissance deals in Afrobeat, deals in electronic music in general, from house to disco, and now with country. Which honestly, a lot of people don't know Black history plays a huge part in, but unfortunately that historical aspect has been swept under the rug and rebranded for white capital gain. As the instruments, which were the foundation of country, were actually taken from Black slaves or Black musicians. As Leslie Riddle, the founder of Spirituals for the Carter family, was a provider of guitar lessons, or guitarist and street performer from Louisiana, T-Top Payne, who solely mentored and taught Hank Williams on passing chords, songwriting, or even fiddler and guitarist Arnold Schultz, the son of a former slave, who not only gave the father of bluegrass, Bill Monroe, his first gig, but also taught him Kentucky thumb technique that would lead to the fame of Chet Atkins. So going into this review, I felt it was massively important for me to contextualize the significance of this album that Beyonce is bringing here, especially with the racist, bigoted reception that Beyonce is getting, saying, "Oh, black people shouldn't do country. What you doing country? They don't belong in country." But if they did their fucking research, they would know that country music comes from black people, which is black music, and being the reason we have country in the first place. And no, Beyonce wouldn't be the first black person to do country music, but to my knowledge, she is the biggest modern R&B pop act to bring country music to the forefront and do something so wild and ambitious with it. I also think it's important for me to note the song Ya Ya, which really solidifies the trilogy. We want to welcome you to the Beyonce Cowboy Carter Act 2 and a rodeo chitlin circuit, as Beyonce expresses her appreciation and celebration for the artists responsible for breaking down boundaries and reaching out universally from artists who were once in the chitlin circuit, which were in times acts of segregation, which was a safe place for black artists to perform, which would later be signed to white-owned labels where they could only put out race records, where they would not be able to put out something universal and capture a wide audience because they only wanted them to cater to black audiences. This would include Ray Charles, Ella Fitzgerald, Aretha Franklin, Little Richard, the Jackson 5, and Tina Turner, who at their time was in the chitlin circuit. Now, it is unfortunate, and I don't know what the label was thinking here, that they would not put Ya Ya, which is the most important track on the album, on the solid copies. Not only is it an important track within the thematic elements of this album, but also addressing important political issues, like staying optimistic in their nightmarish experiences in America. And I also want to state and address how people are making the claims that, oh, she's run out of ideas. Oh, why is she doing country now? When in actuality, she has been sitting on this album for over 5 years. So in actuality, this was actually supposed to be Act 1. But during the pandemic, Beyonce felt it was more important to put out something more upbeat, more uplifting. So Renaissance came first. And due to how harrowing those times were, she felt it was better to put out something more groovy, more energetic, more motivational. Although I do think this album is motivational too, but it is emotionally heavy at the same time. But even to label this a country album, I would say even I am pigeonholing this. Because on here we're getting other genres with country elements, most notably I would say the track Spaghettii, which is a possible reference to spaghetti western, as in spaghetti western film, which is honestly pretty clever, with spaghetti western being Italian western movies and incorporating opera within it, which I felt was a chef's kiss. And definitely correlating the shoot 'em up lyrics to what you would see in a cowboy spaghetti western movie. So yes, this album does have its share of camp, but I feel it's camp that's well done and well aware that it is camp. And over the years, Beyonce has definitely developed this stage presence on a track that is very theatrical, very dramatic. And probably the most unforgettable and haunting on this track, I would say Daughter. And I have no idea who this is a shot to. It's probably to a fictional person. But this is probably the most graphic, murderous song Beyonce has ever penned, in my opinion, as she is talking about these fantasies of carrying out revenge on an adversary in a very mafioso country western way, where she talks about how she was able to get in access to this person because the bathroom attendant let her in and that she's her biggest fan. I swear, not only can Beyonce sing, dance, but given the detail of this, given the genius of this, she could probably write movies too. And I'm not joking with you on that one. And I love the eerie classical vibes here that go straight into this operatic, stellar vocal performance from Beyonce as she is singing, and yes, opera. There's also Tyrant with country legend Dolly Parton that has this booming bass, trap beat, fluttering western strings, and these beautiful ascending vocal melodies. And even though I would say this is a banger, you definitely are getting the, again, very vindictive, very dark Beyonce lyrics on here, as you are getting the dire consequences of what happens when you cross the queen bee. You get that ass stung! Which I could possibly tie into the Jolene cover as what it appears to me that this is the consequences of not only crossing the queen bee, but an act of infidelity and the consequences of that, as we tie that into the badass Jolene cover on here that I would say is more of an interpolation, but a damn good one. As the original is Dolly Parton pleading to this woman Jolene, do not take my man, please. But Beyonce is like, no, fuck that shit, stay away from my man, bitch. And man, yes, there is looped instrumentation here, but it still has that rustic feel. And I love the correlation of the faithful choir and Beyonce singing along with it. It's very powerful to me. It's very invigorating, but also shows how Beyonce brings an aggressive twist to the table and proves she is much more than a singer. She is a damn good artist. So on these tracks, you're getting tracks of perseverance, love, sex, blackness, sexuality, and again, dark thoughts that Beyonce is going through. As far as production goes, it is very rich at times, it's rootsy at times, it is rustic, very grand, very triumphant. And with singles like 16 Carriages, Texas Hold'em, and Beyonce wearing a cowgirl outfit to the Grammys, we pretty much knew what to expect, which led to some damn good country singles that have a rustic quality to them and actually sound like actual country, and opposed to the watered down garbage that we are fed through mainstream country, with the exception of Zach Ryan. Zach Ryan rules. And with Texas Hold'em being a straight up hootenanny banger, and yes, there is silliness in the track, but overall it's fun, it's rootsy, it's flirty, it's very melodic, it's beautiful, and it's great. along with a very personal biographical 16 Carriages, with a super captivating hook, 16 Carriages, with these trembling, passionate bravados that Beyonce is bringing here. She sounds like an angel on here. She sounds like a country angel. On her early road to fame and leaving her home at an early age so she could pursue her career as an artist, which she even draws into present time as she has to leave her present family behind and again continue her career as an artist. And I love the heavy, slow pounding drums, the rising chords, the pedal steel. I love the enveloping instrumentation on here. It really has that country sunrise, rise from the ashes type of vibe. It's very victorious. It's very grand. It's very gripping. Love the orchestration. It sounds so cinematic with booming bass. It's exhilarating. It's inspiring. Rah! And similar to Renaissance, this album has a great flow to it. Also, again, as I stated before, you're getting a lot of variety here. You're getting gospel, you're getting opera, you're getting hip hop. As I alluded to earlier, even psychedelia with the opener, American Requiem, with a large choir of group vocals, accompanied with these hypnotic passages, as Beyonce's vocals are just echoing channel to channel, with these squelching yells in the background that are kind of reminiscent of Prince. And as far as features go, I would say some of them bang, especially the very moving one with Miley Cyrus, with this upright bass, serene and somber lullaby chord progression that definitely reminds me of Fleetwood Mac Landslide. And they share so much chemistry on here, coalescing beautifully with a beautiful, powerful, catchy refrain. I'll be your shotgun rider. And I love how the instrumentation gets larger, the vocals get more passionate as the track goes on. As this song, I believe, is a very loving tribute to Beyonce's mother-in-law, Jay-Z's mother, and her wife, about devotion, of love, partnership, protection. If this doesn't move you, I don't know what to tell you. I will say though, there are a few features on here that I don't think go over that well. Like the one with Posty on Levi Jeans. It's cute, it's a catchy hook, and I do like how Posty actually left his vocals naked on the mains, but the backing are a little airbrushed and kind of kills the soul of it for me. Sorry. Which is a shame because I do like the hook here. And most of the time she's bringing so much personality here. So much care into these tracks, but I wasn't too crazy about Sweet Honey Buckiin, mostly due to the backing ad-libs, which I felt were kind of annoying, and the verse from guest artist Shabuzi I wasn't too impressed with, but I do admire the melodies, I do admire the sentiment here, I do admire the sultry, twangy transition in the middle, but with its phases as the track goes on, it doesn't really develop into anything exciting for me. But most of the tracks on here are friggin' heat, are great. And one thing you'll notice too is how Beyonce is playing a protector on this album, which definitely correlates to how a cowboy or cowgirl would be as the protector. And she's very devoted to that, like on the song Bodyguard, which is a groovy country bop with chunky funk bass, pristine pianos, with some eye-opening bars about Beyonce protecting you in a mosh pit. The queen is willing to risk it all, with this wailing, fiery guitar solo at the end. And in a way, again, reminds me of Prince, which could be an Easter egg to a rock album, which would make sense due to the theme of this trilogy being the reclamation of black music. And the hook is infectious as hell, it's colorful, it's bright, and reads as a saloon banger. And on this album, Beyonce is about unity, dedication, and again, being a protector, which is a very stripped back, beautiful, endearing track to her daughter about how she will show her guidance, even though how one day she will be on her own. But in the meanwhile, Beyonce will bring nothing but love, care, and admiration for her. And there's also Yaya, which is the most explosive track on this album, oh my god, with moments of funk, influences from James Brown, from Nancy Sinatra, which has this drowsy, slowed down strums that you would get off These Boots Are Made for Walking by Nancy Sinatra, which shows so much vocal range from Beyonce, speaking on And I love the way she assembles the instrumentation. I love the quivering vibrato she has here. Ooh. As she's addressing economic struggle, racism, past and present violence, worker exploitation, while trying to maintain faith at the same time and surviving, which is another banger. And another correlation to Renaissance that I picked up on is Riiverdance, with this pounding beat, fluttering banjo strings, over house-style keys that again correlate to Renaissance. And another song that correlates to faith is Hands to Heaven. And there are some tracks on here which I do think are stunning. I do think it's beautiful while it's on, but they end way too quick. And with that, I feel that duration could have been added to other tracks to make cohesive, multifaceted tracks. And there are skits on here that are important to the theme of the album, especially with Linda Martell talking about how genres are a funny thing, as Beyonce is breaking down those barriers in the most creative way possible. And there's also the massive, powerful closer, Amen, which I believe mirrors everything that has gone on through this album, as Beyonce is talking about repentance, as Beyonce is talking about the foundation of, I believe to be, Black culture, which plays into a huge role in this album, as they say, everything is buried here. This was built on blood and bone, which she is talking about the culture. She is talking about the significance of the music, of the pain, of the suffering within the culture that has gone into it, that has formulated it. And that ties up the ending, which you hear the starting melody and hymn that started this album to begin with, which is an epic closer, a fantastic closer, and I think it's great. I think this album is great. I think Beyonce brought a very creative approach to country music with all these elements and tying them into celebration, appreciation, homage to Black culture within the context of country music, which again is a Black art form. That's it. So with an exception of a few songs that I think should have been tied into other songs, to skits that I think played into well to the album, I think they could have been attached to other tracks here. But other than that, I think this is a fantastic album. I think this is a beautiful album. I think this is a moving album. I think this is an inspirational album, a creative album. And I'm feeling 4 Black hearts out of 5 on this album. If you've given this a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And that's it. Caspa, Gothic Ghost, Beyonce, Cowboy Carter. Till we meet again.